Thanks for the introduction, and thank you for your interest of being here for this talk. It's very glad for me to share my research here with you, focusing on the exploring the food health environment nexus. So you may wonder why this is a little bit different from the advertisement that you received by the email, because I was told that I have about half an hour, so I was thinking maybe we can explore a little bit more than the case of the US and focus on different the cases of different countries to see how people are eating in different countries and how that affect their health and the environment. So a little bit about myself. As you see, I'm from School of Earth and Environmental Science of Cardiff University. I just joined the school for just a few months, so I'm a new starter here. Before I was here, I was trained from multiple fields, including the environmental science, policy analysis, and geography and so on. So I'm pretty much a social scientist focusing on human nature coupling issues, and my interest is to study the environmental impacts of human behavior and how the policy intervention can make a difference to promote more sustainable way of consumption. Okay, so let's probe into the details of this my research. So the food system, why should we care about that? The first thing we care about that as an environmental scientist is that it contributes to multiple environmental issues. It contributes to 30% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. It consumes 70% of the surface and groundwater, and also bring about water contamination issues. It occupies about 40% of the land surface. And also it is related to many ecological degradation issues, such as the deforestations. So that has been a lot, in multiple different aspects of the environmental sustainability. But that's not the whole story. And if we think about the malnutrition issues are spreading around the world in multiple in different format in different countries, and that also cause a lot health loss and disease burdens of the human beings. So there are now 800 million people who are undernourished, meaning that they don't have enough calorie intake to support their daily life, and over 1/3 are overweight or obese, and especially in those developed countries. And the numbers are increasing in the developing countries, and we'll see with details later with the case of China. And there are also 2 billion that are suffering from the so-called hidden hunger, which means that they don't have adequate or enough intake of micronutrients such as the minerals and vitamins. So given those interconnection between the nutritional part and the environmental part of the diets, the policymakers and the scholars are wondering whether they can kill the two birds with one stone by motivating a change in how people consume their foods. So we can see that here is how these different parts are linked together. So the food consumption would result in specific environmental impacts and nutritional issues. And if we link them together to see how these two parts are correlated with each other, we can develop certain policy interventions to see whether that could encourage people to change their behavior and help us to achieve more sustainable diet, which as defined by the FAO will be the diets with low environmental impacts, but can still ensure the nutritional intake of the human beings to support healthy lives. So here, for my research, I mainly care about two aspects. The first is how do we get what we have from like how do we get what we have for now from what we're eating, and what are the socioeconomic driver forces and that cause specific environmental and nutritional consequences. So with that overarching question, my research mainly focused on like micro level data to explore whether there are some socioeconomic heterogeneity, such as by income or educational groups. And I also care about like whether the process of urbanization would motivate a change of the dietary, would motivate a dietary transition, and what would be the consequences to the environmental impact and nutritional quality. So how does that change over time? And here, for my previous studies, I mainly focus on like cases of different countries, and here are some interesting cases. One is in the United States, and we all know like the diets are causing a lot of health problems. And in recent years, scholars are talking about like how these diets also contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, as it contains a lot of animal-based products. So what we are interested in is like how these associations would be different for different income and educational levels, and what are the possible inequality issues embedded there, and how we can promote the sustainable consumption of foods like with fairness, covering all the socioeconomic groups. And also there's another case, which is China. The most important, the most interesting thing here is that there has been a rapid change of the dietary patterns happening in this country, along with the socioeconomic transformation. So we would like to see like how these changes would alter the way that the environmental part and the nutritional part of the diets are linked together. So first, let's look at the case of the US. And here, as I just introduced, we're focusing on the unequal nutritional quality and the environmental impacts of their habitual diets. So for the US, I think it's like nauseous, and I would save my words here for like how much greenhouse gas emissions or whatever other environmental impacts it has been contributing here. And we can see the numbers here like that, because it contains a lot more meat, fish, and eggs, and also other animal-based products than the world average. It also contributes to like the overweight and obese rates. Like here are the numbers, the overweight rate for the adults and also for the children. So here is a contrast of the water footprint between the US diet and the world average diet. But if we look into the details and separate those dietary patterns for like people from different socioeconomic groups, there are still other like contrast. And if we compare the diets between the rich and poor, we can see that like for the rich, they are consuming much more healthy foods than the poor, such as the vegetables and fruits and whole grains. And they also consume like less unhealthy foods, such as like sweetened beverages, which contains a lot of added sugar that has been related to like overweight or diabetes. And this division has been increasing over the years, according to some statistics. So here we wonder like what would be the environmental impacts of like the diets from different groups, and how does that change? How does that link to the nutritional dimension of the US diet? And with that question, here I use the individual level data to link the environmental impacts and the nutritional quality. So here we have like individual dietary intakes, which tell us like how how much cereal, meat, fruits, vegetables, and other categories of food that one person would consume. And we link that to specific databases to calculate the greenhouse gas emission, water consumption, land use, and energy use of these individual diets. And we also use specific metrics to evaluate the nutritional quality. And then we link them together to see like how what are the performance of different income groups and educational levels on these dimensions. So that's a basic framework, and here's our data sources. So our individual dietary intake comes from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, which is like in short it's called NHANES. So like basically a lot of countries would take that survey each year, interviewing people and ask them to record what they eat in the past 24 hours, and doing that for a few days. So that would be a very detailed record about like what people have been eating and how much they consume during the past few days. And in this case, it is a nationally representative individual level national nutrition survey, and it is conducted like every 2 years. And we use the data from lasting from the 2005 to 2014, which like lasting for 10 years. And it would also give us like a lot of demographic and socioeconomic characteristics, including the income, the household size, the educational level, ethnic groups, etc. So that would help us to know, like, to divide people into different groups and compare how different their dietary patterns are. And for the environmental impacts, we use the input-output analysis, which basically, I'm not gonna like probe into the details. If interested, we can like have more introduction after the formal talk. But it would like evaluate the life cycle environmental impacts of different kinds of food. For example, for like beef, it will calculate like how much greenhouse gas emission or water consumption is generated from like the production process, and like the along and also like the post harvest phase of the products, such as the wholesale retailing and storage and so on. So like for the animal products, it would also involve the phase of like we need to grow the plants which are used for seeding, which are used for feeding the animals. So all of those are covered. And so in that way, it covers like the direct and indirect impacts of the different food products. And for the nutritional quality, we use a healthy eating index, which is developed by the USDA. So basically, would be there would be a score for each person based on what they eat and how much they eat, which is ranging from 0 to 100. And the higher the higher nutritional quality one get for their diet. And it is separated into two parts. It would evaluating whether the intakes of specific foods and nutrients are adequate, like that would including like if we are eating enough healthy food and consuming like not so much unhealthy food. So here is like the detailed metrics of the healthy eating index. We can see like it involves the adequacy, which measures the healthy foods, whether that the intake of those are enough, like including the total fruits and whole fruits and like whole grains and so on. It also includes a part of moderation, which indicates that if we are over consuming the unhealthy integrates, such as and products such as the refined grains and added sugars and so on. So it would have like different points for each dimension, and then after that it would be added up to a total score for each person. So with those methods, here are some key results that we get. So first of all, because we get a large sample of different individuals, and then we did some statistical analysis to see whether the income or the educational level is related to how much environmental impacts and the healthy eating index scores that people have. And here we find that the higher the socioeconomic status, the higher healthy eating index they get, but they also get like larger environmental impact. And here is the result for the income. So we can see that like these coefficients are significant, positively significant, indicating that the richer people are eating healthier, but they are also responsible for larger environmental impacts. And that changed a little over time, because as we can see from these the coefficient of this interactive term of the income and the year, we can see that like for the healthy eating index, the division between the poor and rich are increasing, but like the difference are pretty much the same for the other environmental impacts. And if we look at the educational level, we can also see that the higher educational level, the higher healthy eating index there will be, and also the higher greenhouse gas emission, water consumption, and energy consumption there will be. So the difference is not so much for the land. This is because for different types of food, the difference of producing per gram of food is not so large as for the other environmental impacts. And here we are doing some visualization to show how much the difference is. Like here we are showing the difference from the lowest quintile of the income to the highest, and we can see like there are about 10 points of the difference in the healthy eating index for the people from different income groups, and that comes from different dimensions of the healthy eating index. And we can see like these differences are not so much, but when it piles up, it leads to like a significant difference that we can see for the total 4 scores. And here's this one shows the difference for the environmental impacts, and we can see like for the contrast is more significant for water. This is because like for per gram of food, there is a larger difference across different food products. And the contrast is also like observable for energy and greenhouse gas emissions. And as we get from the statistical analysis, the difference for the land is less significant. So that would give us a general impression of how like people from different socioeconomic groups are eating differently, but we would like to explore more like what factors characterize their eating behavior and lead to that consequence. So here we use a LMDI decomposition of the environmental impacts, and basically this would divide the environmental impacts of their food consumption into different parts. So by manipulating the elements of this equation here, we can separate that into like different elements, including like how much the environmental impacts per unit nutrient is contributing to this environmental impacts, and how much is contributed by the nutritional density, which is linked to our healthy eating index, and also other elements including the energy density, food price, consumption structure, and expenditure on food. So this is a little bit complex, but so the general idea is like we would like to see like how the characteristics of different aspects of their food consumption behavior would contribute to the environmental impacts. And the results that we get here shows us that the richer people would consume foods that are more expensive, which is reasonable because they would like to pay more for what they're eating to get like high quality food. And this food would contain less calories in each gram and more nutrients, meaning that like they are consuming those foods that are more nutritional dense. But also these foods also contains like higher environmental impacts. So with that status quo described, we would like to see if we motivate people to shift to healthy diet, what would happen to their environmental impacts? Would that be like a synergy between the two parts? And if we encourage people to adopt a healthier diet, would that also lower the environmental impacts? And by doing with that question, we are conducting a optimization, which is for our objective function. We optimize the distance from the current diet to the healthy diet. So we are minimizing this distance, which indicates that people are like hesitate to make a change, and we want them to make the smallest change, which can still help them to satisfy all the nutritional constraints, which is our subject to constraints here. So we did that for, sorry, here's a mistake. We did that for each individual, not every country, and we combine those results together. And here's what we get. So here, this graph shows us like how people would need to change their diets for each different food groups. And here we see that like all of them would need to reduce their livestock consumption, and also the poultry, and also like the consumption of let's see, others, which is basically the sweetened beverage and snacks. But they also need to increase their consumption of the healthy foods, such as the legumes, nuts and seeds, and dairy, and also the vegetables and fruits. And here we show like how the change of the different environmental impacts by doing that shift. And we also added them up to see like what would be the change of the environmental impacts. And here we see that by shifting to healthy diet, people would reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, land occupation, and energy consumption generated from their food consumption, but the water consumption would be increasing. So this would tell us that like by doing that shift, it would not be always a good news for each dimension of the environmental impact, and we need to consider all of them into the policy interventions and the cost-benefit analysis of the policy making. And if we compare the results for different income groups, we would see that there are not much change. There are not much difference across the different income groups. And we also compare that for the educational levels, not shown here. We got similar results. But if we consider like how people are eating differently from our previous analysis, we would see that like for the poor, they may need to make a more drastic change to shift to healthy diet, because they are consuming like less healthy healthy foods, but more unhealthy foods compared with their richer counterparts. So here are the takeaway points of this research. In here, like we evaluate the environmental consequences and nutritional quality of individuals' diets in the United States, and we see some difference across the income groups and educational levels, as people from the higher socioeconomic status are eating healthier, but are responsible for larger environmental impacts. So this can be attributed to the fact that these people are consuming the food items that are generally more expensive, provide more nutrients and fewer calories, but also would require more resource consumption and generated more pollution. And by shifting to healthy diet, people would show a similar change of the environmental impacts, which shows a reduction in like all the environmental impacts except for water consumption. And for the actual change that they would need to make, the individuals from the lower socioeconomic status would make a much more effort to achieve this change. So that's basically a case of the United States. And we did another case to see what's happening in China. And here we put the focus on like the overtime change of the diet and see like how that would make a difference. So why China? Why should we care about this country? The reason is that there has been a fast westernization of the dietary patterns in the past years. So the most obvious trend is that the meat consumption has been rocketing. It has been quadrupled in the past 4 decades, and that has been contributing to like that has been related to the malnutrition issues and public health issues. So the overweight rate has passed 30% in 2050, and people are still suffering from the hidden hunger issues in some undeveloped areas. And if we think about like how the lifestyles and the dietary patterns has been changing and would be still continuing to change, along with that rapid urbanization and economic development, then it becomes a very important issues to get some understandings about like how people are consuming their food differently nowadays, and how does that contribute to the food health environment nexus. So here we take still the nutrition survey from China, and this is pretty much like the data that we use for the US, and it is surveyed from the 9 provinces. It's unfortunately not a nationally representative sample, but it's still, as we can see, like the sample area spread from the north to the south, and like covering the regions with very different socioeconomic status, that would give us like abundant information about like different individuals and how they are eating differently. So it covers 9 provinces, and continuing for like over 2 decades. And here's some waves that we use for this study. And here we are considering the 3 types of environmental impacts for the study, since the data is not the data quality is not so good as for the United States. So we want to make sure that we get like credible results, and we refined the focus on greenhouse gas emissions, water consumption, and land use. And here we use the life cycle assessment results instead of input-output analysis, because we don't get an input-output table that is as detailed as we get for the United States. So for the nutritional quality evaluation, we use a Chinese Dietary Guideline. So here, it does not give us like a healthy eating index, and which is like a score for each person, but it still tells us what would be an adequate interval of intake levels for people from different for people with different energy requirement, and that has been listed for different food categories. So we can determine like whether one is eating with a good nutritional quality, and if not, like how far away he or she is from the healthy eating patterns. So here are some key results that we get. So for the environmental impacts, it is increasing across the years, mainly due to more animal product consumption. So here we can see, like, here's the food intakes decomposed by different groups. For like, this is a low income, medium income, and high income groups, and here shows the rural area and the urban area. So we separate them into 6 groups, and we can see like the one obvious trend is that the consumption of the starchy food, which is grains, pods, and tubers, are decreasing over the years, and the meat consumption, which is shown by these blue bars, are increasing in all the groups, and that will lead to a sharp increase of the greenhouse gas emissions, water consumption, and land occupation in all the groups. And for the nutritional quality, it has led to a mixed change over time. So if we compare the whether people are consuming adequate amount of food for each categories, we can draw this coordination system to see like whether there are over intake or under intake issues for different food groups, and whether they are improving or worsening over time. And here we found that for the cereal, there has been an over intake, but it is improving as people are reducing their consumption of the cereals. But for the meat and cooking oil, the over intake issue has been worsening. And for the other groups, such as the vegetables and fruits, even though like people are eating a lot of these kinds of food in China, but there are still under intake issues for basically every group, and that has been improving a little. So these issues are similar for all the individuals, but there are some heterogeneities within the urban rural contrast, and also the income levels. And we observe that for the urban and high income groups, there has been a worse over intake of meat and cooking oil, but there are like the other under intake issues is smaller. And for them, there has been a faster shift to a healthier pattern. So they are adapting themselves to a healthy dietary patterns in a faster speed. And if we combine these 2 dimensions together, we can see a coexistence of like the double win, double loss, and trade-offs over the years for the nexus. So still here we draw a coordination systems, which for the horizontal dimension, we show like whether the environmental impacts of the intakes of different food groups has been increasing or decreasing. And another dimension, the vertical dimension, is that whether for these food groups, whether the nutritional quality is improving or worsening. So here we can see like here's like double win, which shows that we get like less environmental impacts over the years, but we get higher nutritional quality. And this is obviously where the cereal locates, as we are consuming less of them, which reduce the overconsumption, but also help us to improve the nutritional quality. And here we get like two trade-off areas, which shows us those are the food with like the in either increasing environmental impacts and improving nutritional quality. So we should encourage people to eat more of these foods to get a better health status, but that would also lead to more environmental impacts, and we need to get prepared for that. So that basically contains like vegetables, fruits, a lot of healthy diet, healthy foods that we that we know. And here's the region that we need to put some effort, which shows us the double loss, which means that we the over intake issues has been worsening, but we still also get increasing environmental impacts. And here is a part that we get some opportunity for the two parts. So that basically shows that like people are eating are increasingly over consuming the meat and cooking oil. And if we target at this part to make some change, that would lead to a better future. So there are still some heterogeneities across different socioeconomic groups, as the urban and high income groups, which show a larger percent of the trade-offs because they are consuming more vegetables and fruits and other healthy foods. And for the rural and low-income counterparts, there is a larger percent of the double loss, as they are like increasing their meat and cooking oil consumption with a higher speed. So the takeaway points here is that like the dietary transitions has been leading to increase of dietary environmental impacts, but a mixed change of the nutritional quality. It does not necessarily lead to like a better health status. And there's no easy answer to whether the historical change of the nutritional quality benefits the environment or not, because we can see like there's a mixture of how these two parts link together for different food groups. And there's a heterogeneity across the socioeconomic groups, which means that if we want to make some policy that can target it at the different groups with fairness, we need to know like how different they are eating for their daily diet. So this has been like published in Nature Sustainability, and you are very welcome to like check the paper for more details. So that's basically the two cases that I would like to briefly introduce today. And here is like a more general roadmap for my research in this area. So here we can see that to make a change, we need more knowledge for the status quo, but we also need to know like how we can make people to change their diets that can lead to the final behavior change. So there has been like research from different levels, varying from the global to individual levels, to linking these parts together to evaluate the consequences, the health impacts and environmental impacts of different dietary patterns. But still we need to know like for other dimensions, such as how these things are different across the culture, because if we want to make a change, we don't want to like make people all eat the same food regardless of where they come from and what they are preferred to their daily diets. We want them to like enjoy their foods, otherwise it's not going to work. And based on that, we need to know like what would be what interventions would be effective. So those are like the topics that I would be interested in exploring in the future. And if you get some ideas and thoughts and comments, you are more than welcome to like discuss with me, and like maybe we can think of some cooperations. So that would be a brief talk that I would like to share today. And thank you for your attention. Here's my email. Sorry, I should put my school email here, but you can like also find me by using the link, and like my school email is also there. So thank you for your attention. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Pan. That was really interesting. If anyone does want to get in touch with you, then they can let us know and we can pass on your contact details as well. So that's no problem. We have one question at the moment, give people time to formulate some more. So question saying, have you looked at whether it would be possible to include pollution in the environmental impacts? For example, intensive meat production creates phosphates causing eutrophication and ammonia causing biodiversity loss and health problems.
Yeah, thanks for the question. That's definitely very interesting and important to explore, but that somehow depends on whether we can get the data. So I'm trying to include phosphorus and nitrogen into my evaluation. And there's actually a paper that I co-authored with my colleagues, which has been like submitted to, I think it's Nature Food or some other journals. So maybe like after the R&R, we can see like how the different foods would contribute to like also the pollution issues.
Thank you very much, Pan. Do we have any other questions at this stage? It's worth saying as well, if you do have any follow-up questions afterwards, let us know and we can put you in touch and you can discuss it in further detail. And we'll also be making the recording available on our website as well within about a week of today. So if anyone wants to watch back, then you're obviously very welcome to do so. Okay, I'm not sure if we've got any other questions at this stage, so it might be a good point to end it. Just to let you all know, we do have the final webinar of the year next Thursday, so please do take a look at our programme. And if it interests you, then please do register. So, oh, okay, we do have one more question. Okay, that's fine. So we've got a question saying, do you have any suggestions as to how we can affect what people choose to eat?
That's an interesting question. Thanks. I think that's still like in the open air, and there are like tremendous studies in which scholars are exploring which would be a better strategy. But there are ongoing discussion about like whether we can use the nudging strategies to promote people's behavior change, which is definitely which is basically to like make small changes of the dining environment, I would say. For example, to change the size of the plates to see, because like if you got a larger plate, then the same amount of food would looks like less in that case. So scholars are trying to explore whether like if we reduce the size of the plates, would that encourage people to eat less, and would that help to reduce the total calories intake and also the food loss and waste. And there are other nudging strategies, such as if we add more choices of like vegetarian or healthy food, healthy meals to the menu, would that also change the people's behavior? And actually it would. So there has been an experiment conducted in the cafeteria of the Cambridge University, and by adding more vegetarian choices to the menu, they found out like the total sales of the restaurant does not change much, but there has been a significant increase of choosing the vegetarian meals, and that would like encourage people to consume more vegetables and like fiber abundant foods.
Thank you, Pan. So we've got another question asking, how big do your studies need to be to look at these impacts?
Sorry, what's the question again?
How big do your studies need to be to look at these impacts?
How big deals?
How big do your studies need to be? So I guess it's asking what number of people are you kind of drawing this data from? What's your the samples? I assume, yeah.
Okay, I think that depends on like what kind of data that we can get. But for the US sample, I think we get like a few thousands of people for each wave, and that would give us a large sample, total sample for the statistical analysis and like the visualization. And for the China case, I think we get like more than 10,000 people for each wave, and that's also a large sample. So like for the quantitative analysis, we definitely want like as many as possible.
Thank you very much. So I'll give everyone one final chance to submit any questions that you have. A minute to do that. Okay, brilliant. I don't think we've got any more questions. Oh, hang on, no, we do. I'm not sure if it's a question or a comment yet, so I'll have to give it a read. So it says, thank you for a wonderful, really informative talk. I was wondering whether food transport is accounted for in the evaluation of environmental impacts. Also, do you consider increase in egg and dairy consumption to be important for better nutritional levels?
Thanks for the question. So for the first one, for the United States case, we definitely include that the transportation phase there, because like by using the input-output analysis, it would like involve basically everything happening in the whole supply chain. For the Chinese case, we use a life cycle assessments, but it covers only like the cradle to farm gate phase, because like for that one, we are not sure like how long the distance that the food has been traveled, and in that case it's hard to make any like assumptions, so we decided to like just focus on the production phase. But we don't think it would be a very important a significant like source of errors and uncertainties, because like a lot of studies have been showing that the production phase would be the major phase that are responsible for the largest proportion of the environmental impacts. And for the second question, so vegetarian diets has been like, it has been advocated in many cases, in many studies, but still some scholars from the food science and nutritional field would suggest that people should be cautious, because if you take vegetarians, if you become a vegetarian, then you need to think about where you can get a specific like source of high quality proteins, and you need to care about like how you get some certain minerals such as the iron. So I'm not I'm not an expert for that phase, so I'm just citing like the conclusion that they get. But I think it would be good if we increase our consumption of the vegetables and fruits, and in that sense, it would be good if we like make more choices in vegetarians food, like not for like the whole set, but maybe just increase the times that we adapt that patterns for our daily meals.
Okay, thank you very much, Pan. We've got 2 more questions, so I'll look at those in the order they came in. So the next question says, do you know of any certification programs that would help consumers choose food products that would provide a double win?
Sorry, what kind of programs? Is that like some consultations that can help you to make a better choice, or?
I suppose it's similar certifications to Rainforest Alliance or Fair Trade. So I suppose the question is, are there any type of certification bodies that help people provide those type of double win situations that you spoke of?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think given the situation that we have, like we can see like in both countries, in United States and China, and maybe in other countries, the biggest problem is meat. And then if we reduce our meat consumptions and take more like vegetables, fruits, legumes, that would make a better world. And that has been integrated in the dietary guidelines of different countries. So I think for those dietary guidelines, some of them would make a part to discuss like the healthy diet also also support the environmental sustainability. And just by following their instructions, I think that would make a difference. That would make a good change.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Okay, and the next question said, are meat products treated as homogeneous products because increase in income is sometimes associated with purchase of higher cost, higher welfare, higher grass-fed meat? Were these heterogeneous meats production types taken into consideration?
Thanks. That's an important question, but unfortunately, because like the data cannot tell the difference. So even if we want to take into consideration that difference, we couldn't do that with the current data that we have. Maybe in the future, if we get like more detailed data that can separate, that can differ the environmental impacts of like maybe the organic beef and the normal beef, then that would also make a very good research.
Thank you, Pam. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Okay, just coming up to 1 o'clock, and I don't think we've got any more questions at this stage. So just like to say another thank you very much to you, Pam, for speaking to us today. It was a really interesting topic and lots of interesting questions. So if anybody would like to discuss anything you've heard in further detail or get in touch with Pam, then do let us know, and we can put you in contact.
Thank you for your attention. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And as I said, this will be online on our webinar pages in about a week or so's time. So if you'd like to watch it back, then please do so. But yeah, thank you to everyone again for joining us today. And yes, we'll hopefully see you soon for another webinar. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.